The global economy is undoubtedly in a very critical state with a lot of challenges, such as inflation, interruptions in the supply chain, and increasing global debt burden, among others. But among all these, what did I find the most worthy of reflection? It is the increasing global debt burden. In the most recent year, global debt reached a record of $303 trillion, and this is a further jump from record global debt in 2020 of $226 trillion. This was the biggest one-year debt surge since the Second World War. Debt, as we know it, is simply the act of borrowing money from another. But when we talk about global debt, it is the borrowing by governments, businesses, and people. Debt is naturally considered a burden. The borrower is liable to pay the interest and principal without default. Debt burden indicates an entity's significant amount of debt and the cost of servicing it. The question is, why would a person or a nation resort to borrowing money? Simply because the resources at hand are not sufficient. We all know that we live in a world of limited resources, and this shown in the value of our main medium of exchange, which is money. Despite the limited resources, our needs and wants tend to be unlimited. Thus, shortage or scarcity takes place, and we look for ways to provide for such needs and even wants, such as resorting to debts. This concept is entirely the same to a nation or to the globe as a whole. Now that the global debt burden has reached a substantially high level, we are suffering consequences in our international economy. First, for households, high levels of debt can force them to cut some areas of spending, such as food or fuel. Low-income households are most at risk. For businesses, meeting repayments on high levels of debt can mean less money is available to invest in jobs and expansion. Insolvency is also a risk for businesses that are unable to pay back their loans. To meet debt payments, at least 100 countries will have to reduce spending in health, education, and social protection. If countries default on their debts, it can cause panic on financial markets and economic slowdowns, which is already happening today. The external debt burden is a very critical issue. High foreign debt might make it difficult for nations to invest in their own infrastructure, health spending, or educational systems, since a significant portion of their income is diverted to paying off external debts. It impedes long-term economic growth, and in the long run, the debt burden affects economic growth negatively. The bad news is, it is the poor countries that faced the most immediate risks, hammered by tightening financial conditions and steep currency depreciations. Dozens of developing countries are either teetering on the edge of a debt crisis or have already defaulted. This is according to the International Monetary Fund. This international economic issue is being faced by developing countries, whether big and small. The pandemic, cost of living crisis, and rising interest rates have brought them to a point where they can only pay their debts by way of austerity or foregone investment in the sustainable development goals. Their debts are sustainable in that they can be repaid, but unsustainable in every other way. The severity and the complexity of this economic issue really placed a great deal of worry in my heart. At a personal level, I know that it is too difficult to influence the international community and the national government, but I could influence others and, most importantly, control myself to really prioritize my needs and conserve the resources that I have. Although the increasing global debt burden is a very, very broad issue, our small efforts can truly contribute to the solution. Yes, debt is not necessarily bad, and actually it is vital to the proper functioning of the world economy. However, excessive amounts of it will cause us trouble. Thus, at all times, we must be wise, compassionate, and mindful of how we acquire and spend our resources.